in Baroda, and post-graduation diploma in manufacturing management from SPJ Mumbai. He is managing director of Linkages Private Limited and Eclipse Global Private Limited, and serves as independent and non-executive director at Alembic Limited, Munjal Auto Industry Limited, and Voltem Transformers Limited. He is also board member, governor of Navrajna University. Beyond his professional achievement, Mr. Khera is deeply committed to social causes. He is founder trustee of C Foundation, president of Heritage Trust in Baroda, co-chairperson of Baroda Marathon Private Limited, trustee of Gujarat National Conservation Society and Rugman Foundation. He also serves as immediate past chairman of Baroda Citizen Council from 2016 to 2022. Mr. Khera's blend of professional success and social dedication makes him exemplary leader for student social responsibility. Today he will share some insights how we can incorporate the social responsibility into our lives and make meaningful impact. So give a round of applause.
Thank you.
So now I would like to invite Dr. Sunita Sharma for a token of gratitude to sir.
So good morning.
Good morning.
I understand it's been a long morning. This is working.
Yes.
What time did you guys start?
7 o'clock.
Wow. Okay. When they asked me what time slot do you want, they were offering me post lunch. So I said both were graveyard shifted. Everybody will have their lunch. They would already be tired for the whole morning. So the afternoon session to hold your attention is going to be challenging. I think you have the afternoon session. So all the best.
He's a brave guy.
Yeah, I know he's the right person. Student social responsibility is a very dry subject, so I'm not sure it's meant for the afternoon session. It's better to do it in the morning when all of you are relatively fresh. So, I mean, I don't want, it's not a lecture, right? We'll just have a talk. We'll try and make it as informal as possible. When we talk of, I think when we were discussing, Parvez called me and he said, corporate social responsibility. And then there was a discussion and we said, I think maybe student social responsibility makes probably a little more relevance since all of you are obviously students. So this is, you guys, is this postgraduate or is this postgraduate, right? So all of you have already finished your graduation in some field or the other and you've chosen to get into management. And so if we have a break, a kind of a division in terms of what backgrounds you are from, any engineers here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm an engineer. No, so first I asked for engineers. Anybody from commerce background? Okay, so that kind of covers it, engineering and commerce. Do we have any other fields left out or that's about it? Anybody else who is not an engineer? Yeah, please. What? Bachelor's in?
Foreign studies.
Okay, great. Wow. Anybody else? So obviously, after having done engineering, and this is something that I am also guilty of, you do engineering and then you choose to come to management, right? So at the end of the day, where is the link between engineering, management and a career? Or whether it is commerce or forensics. I think we are all proud Indians, right? We understand or we need to respect the value of education in any form, right? Whether if you are able to get access to schooling, access to university education, I think we should all count ourselves extremely lucky. I remember when I was an engineer, and I did my engineering at Khera. This was way back, I forget now, 1984 was the year I joined. Semester system, our semester fees used to be 400 rupees. Right, now when you are doing, obviously somebody is paying for that, right? As taxpayers, we are paying for it, the government subsidizes the education. Then automatically, as a student, you need to start understanding what your role is when you are being lucky enough to get a background of a good education. And when you get that education, what is your responsibility then? I think if you really try to encapsulate something of SSR, I think that's where you have to first, place that you come from is a place of acceptance and gratitude that you are in a position today when you can look forward to good careers. I saw the list of companies which recruit from FMS, a very impressive list, right? You have, obviously I saw the name of Aarambh, I saw Inox, I saw so many other names. So the platform that you are getting today, right, is because of the education that you have, is because of what this institution is able to give that platform to you. And what is now your role in terms of what do you need to do to appreciate and to give back. I think it's very important to understand that and to be sensitive to that opportunity that you have got and how you need to extend that opportunity in being able to give back to society a little bit of what you have received. I think at the end, first to lay the platform for whatever we're going to talk about today, I think that seems to me the right place to begin with. So anyway, just the idea that students have an ethical duty. Okay, here when we are talking of ethical, I am coming back to that same thing that it's important to appreciate, understand and be grateful for the opportunities you have and to understand how you want to give back to society. Yeah, and of course, it includes your personal responsibilities as well. So I've taken help from my daughter to make this presentation. I said, don't make it a very point-wise presentation, make sure that people are able to relate a little bit to it. So excuse some of the examples that she's put up. So when we are talking of giving back, how does it, at the end of the day, we also need to understand what is it that it is going to give us. I think any transaction that you have, okay, I'm calling it a transaction for a specific reason, we're all doing MBA. So there is a transaction, there is a monetary transaction, there is an emotional transaction, there is a transaction of responsibility. So any transaction you have, and when you're going to be involved in, or you have probably been involved in whatever you do, you also need to understand what it gives back to you. Now, if you are going to get involved in social causes, and I think I remember sometime back, I think Parvez had shared with me this project that the students were part of the FMS, right? The cleaning of the buildings, right? He shared with me the project that you guys did, and it was so that was last year. That was last year, yeah. So these are small and simple things, simple transactions which happen and which can happen on a regular basis because you see something which needs improvement. This is not something which comes within your gamut of day-to-day activities, but you are deciding that, okay, I am going to give up some time and some mind space to address that problem. Instead of waiting for somebody else to come and resolve it, there is sometimes that self-initiative to take it up and resolve it, I think becomes very important. Now, I think all of you are in second year, right? You've already gone through some projects. I know that my MBA was from SPJ, and I was discussing with that they in fact have a project, like you have internships with companies and you probably do summer projects. SPJ has a project which goes on for their both for both first year and second year students, where they are asked to identify a problem in the rural areas, identify NGOs which they can work with, and then through those 2 years they are mentoring and guiding those NGOs in the rural areas to address the problems that they have seen. Now, has any of you got any exposure to something like that? Or all of you have gone into corporate projects? So there is this program that ma'am was talking about, the Ujjwal Unnat Bharat program, which is actually built on a similar model. And I think MSU, the FMS-MSU is one of the 3 universities in Gujarat which is part of that program. Where again, the interaction between the problems that the rural area faces and what as students you can do to address that. I think we all are observing that the people who get educated, who have access to resources are doing better, right? They are getting good opportunities, they are progressing in life. And the inequity or the inequality among in society, in whether it's the poor or whether it's the underprivileged or whether it's the rural areas, the inequity between in society is also increasing. And as management students, I think what you need to understand as well is that the larger the market that you are able to create, right, for your companies, that's one selfish motive that I can think of. If you are able, if the market that you are able to create is going to expand, that's in the interest of every corporate. And how do you do that? You need to provide education, which you have been lucky enough to receive, and you also need to provide them with the skill set where they can earn their daily livelihood and their daily living. So these are some things that you should be looking at. Also, this interaction where you are doing something, and again I'm coming back to that whole concept of a transaction. The transaction is not going to be monetary. When you are going to work for an NGO addressing a problem, the transaction is not monetary. It's something that you are doing because you think there is a problem that needs to be addressed. Nobody else is addressing it, or somebody is addressing it, but you can give them some inputs. And what is it going to give back to you? I think it develops a sense of empathy. I think understanding and a realization. It develops sensitivity, and these are important soft skills for all of you as managers. I think when you get into industry, you will realize that just number crunching skills are not important. I think for you to become an all-round manager who is capable of delivering, you need to be able to work with people, not just with numbers. I think the key question that will decide your success or your career growth is are your soft skills, your empathy, your sensitivity, and your ability to deal with people. Because ultimately that is what is the most important thing, and I'm also talking from my experiences 30 years in the industry, that the key to success is dealing with people. If you are able to do that, and I see no other, I think this avenue where if you start engaging with problems which are not your own, I think the kind of empathy that you will develop and the skill set that you will develop to deal with those will stand you and will do you a lot of good. It of course, and these kind of experiences are going to support not just your personal growth, but also your professional growth. So keep that in mind. I think when you're, obviously as young people, इसमें मेरा क्या लेना है, right? But मेरे को क्या मिलेगा ये करके? मैं आपको यही बता रहा हूँ कि आपको ये करके क्या मिल सकता है, ये आपको आज या कल नहीं दिखेगा. You will see the impact of that 5 years, 10 years down the line. So I'll also talk about some areas where I think there is potential of where you can be involved. How many of you have heard of this the 17 special development goals? आपको मालूम है UN ने कुछ एक 17 SDGs define किए हैं. Can you put the last slide? these are the 17 sustainable. How many of you are familiar with this? You may not know too much in detail, but how you're familiar. Can you just quickly explain what this is?
Actually,
Please stand up.
Actually, sir, I was in my internship. I was doing project on a green or sustainable chemistry. So regarding that, I connect to the one of our ma'am, Smita ma'am. So she suggested me that you can go through this, but my project was on a chemical basis. So these all 70s are about how country can grow up and what can they do to be a sustainable country and yeah.
Okay, great. Now, can all of you read this? Can you read this slide? Can you read what are, can you just quickly go through them? I don't want to spend too much time, but can you just quickly go through them? I'll ask one of you to read and what you've understood from this. The first one is,
No poverty.
yeah, so anybody wants to just quickly explain what this is?
Everyone should be the above the.
Please stand up and
Okay,
talk.
sorry.
There are so many people I don't see who's talking.
Sorry, sir. No poverty means like everyone should be the above poverty line. Like no one should be the below poverty line. So.
Good. The second one, zero hunger. Anybody wants to explain? I mean, these seem very matter of fact, right?
Yes, sir.
Zero poverty, no hunger. ये क्या बोलने की बात है? Please.
So zero hunger just signifies that everyone should get at least one meal a day.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. We'll come back to that later. Third point.
Good health and well-being.
What do you understand from that?
Good health and well-being means each and every person should be in a state that he can maintain his physical existence.
Very good. Physical and I think we can add mental well-being also. I think that's become a point of a lot of discussion today. Fourth.
So for this quality education, no one should be deprived of the education part, and he should be engaged in some education.
Right. So education, and they qualify it by saying quality education. So I think a lot of things are going on. This is a part of not just education but giving quality education. I think when you call professionals from industry to talk to you, you are engaging more with professionals in the field, and that's enhancing the quality. I think you know that what is the ranking of FMS, right? So we are trying to increase the ranking so that you get access to better jobs. So quality education. Fifth, let's have one of our female students to talk about gender equality.
Gender equality refers to equal opportunities to men and women both. That is, both should have equal.
Perfect. I think gender equality is not just related to male and female, right?
Yes.
I see a lot of this he, him, she, him, मुझे समझ नहीं आता है, but I see a lot of that also happening. So I think we have to, let's say, broaden that definition and explanation. Point number 6. Anybody from that corner? Yeah, please.
Actually, I'm not able to.
So it says clean water and sanitation.
Clean water, it is a very basic need. Everything should be clean so that a person can survive with health, and also so that they can drink clean water, they can stay in a healthy, clean environment.
Fine. Access to water to ensure not just for your personal need but also for cleanliness and whatever. Number 7. Any engineer wants to talk about affordable and clean energy? What do you mean by that? Please.
We should avoid using coal and all the energy that is coming from fossil fuel. We should try to shift from fossil fuel to natural fuels, renewable fuels like solar, wind.
Very good. So we're talking of the impact of, so I think somebody said sustainability. I think when we are talking of global warming, we are talking of greenhouse gases. So one of the solutions is that affordable and clean energy. I think a lot of renewables that we are looking at. Point number 8. Who wants to take that up? It's just simple reading out, please.
If one is decent work and economic growth, that means that the work culture should be good enough, and the growth and everyone should find that personal growth as well as economics goal as a growth.
Yeah. So decent work. I think the key word is decent here, right? So we are talking of fair practices, right? आप लोग, I think when you graduate, you will get some packages. You are expected to work for certain hours. You expect a certain work environment. So what we are talking is, the key word is decent, right? So ensuring that you may not be directly part of that, but you may be responsible for creating a decent work environment, ensuring that compliant and fair labor practices are being done, and ensuring that the workplace is good. Point number 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Anybody want to talk about that? So here what basically is that if you're talking of economic growth, also you need to ensure that there is innovation in the economy, the industry is able to grow, there is infrastructure available. What is infrastructure, right? Access to good roads, highways, ports, airports. So without that, those are the building blocks of any economy. So you need to ensure that is complied with. Point number 10, reduced inequalities. I think I just spoke about that, right? We need to ensure that the gap between has to go down, right? And a lot of the steps that you've seen before will help to ensure that. The reason I'm going through these 17 goals is so that it gives you an idea of what are the areas that you can get involved in, right? It's not necessary that you have to do everything. There are certain practices here that you can put in place as individuals. But if you are looking at opportunities to support the community, you can decide. There are lots of NGOs working in different areas, and you can decide which are the ones which appeals to you and how you can support that. 11 is sustainable cities and communities. Somebody wants to talk about this?
There is eco-friendly infrastructures, waste reduction, and many more things. We see the example of because of this avoidance, there is no space to breathe.
So, when we talk of sustainable cities, I think it's also to ensure that we all talk about this whole migration from rural to urban, right? So that puts a lot of pressure on the urban areas. You know the problems that big cities like Bombay or Delhi or Calcutta face. I forget those even cities like Baroda, the kind of pressures that the infrastructure of the city faces, because the ability to keep up with the growing population is not there. So when you're talking of sustainable cities, I think the model of growth should be in such a way that everybody has access to the right infrastructure. So I think it's very important to look at that. I think the example that I just cited earlier in terms of taking up the responsibility for ensuring that certain basic things of the city are met with, complying with traffic rules. Yeah? If we expect that the police should strictly apply the rules, but who's breaking the rules? Yeah? Who's breaking the rules? Do we need to break the rules? I think that's what we need to also understand our role in trying to have sustainable city. We cannot just keep blaming that पुलिस की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं है, ठीक है? अल्टीमेटली पुलिस तो वही कर रहा है कि जो हम गलत काम कर रहे हैं वो उसके लिए बैठा हुआ है, और गलत काम हम ही क्यों ना बंद करें पहले से? So हमारा क्या रोल है to create sustainable cities? We also talk of, since I'm involved with heritage, I think ensuring that the heritage of the city, people are sensitive to that. We have adaptive reuse of some of the old buildings that we have. The MS University itself is a repository of heritage buildings, and it's our responsibility of everyone here to ensure that we know about that heritage and we ensure that we don't damage it. I think it's very important, and I think that example of faculty students from here cleaning up their own was excellent, and I think more students should take that up. Those are responsible, those are small examples of what you can do. When we are talking of student social responsibility, these are small examples of, as students, what you can contribute, right? And not depend on what somebody else is. But let's forget about that. ठीक है? वो I think गांधी जी ने बोला था, be the change you want to see. पहले change हम अपने से करें. ठीक है? How many of you voted? So it's good to see this number, right? Because if you don't vote, nobody should say कि मेरे एक वोट से क्या होने वाला है, ठीक है? आपके ही एक वोट से change आएगा. Because if you vote, then you have also the right to criticize, to complain, to give a solution, to offer that. If you don't vote, then you are not part of the conversation at all. Then you have no right to criticize. ठीक है, भले आप वोट उसको करोगे वो शायद नहीं जीतेगा, पर आपको मैं एक एग्जांपल भी देता हूँ. I'm sorry to bring this into it, but I think voting is the biggest responsibility of any citizen, and as students you need to understand that. We talk of the value of one vote, and I will give you an example of Baroda. Right, there was an MP of Baroda in 1996 who won by 17 votes. Right, and I think there are more than 17 people here in this room who voted. And if 17
allocate sanctuaries and land for them so that they can go in their natural habitat.
perfect. I think life on land talks about life other than what we look at for ourselves, right? Whether it's the birds, whether it's trees, whether it's so the entire ecology has to be taken into account whenever you are taking decisions for yourself, for your organizations, or for any other factor that you will be looking at. Number 16, this is a strong one. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. Anybody wants to discuss, talk about this? We know the issues that are happening today, what's happening in Ukraine, right? What's happening in Israel and Palestine. So at the end of the day, everybody, every human on this world has a right to a peaceful existence, right? And how, as students, do you look at that and try to make sure that your actions are leading to that? I think it's very important. One cannot disrespect the aspirations and needs of a population which may be underprivileged, which may not think like you, but they still have a right to exist. Right? So it's important to appreciate and understand that there are people who will be different from you, but you still need to make sure that their rights are not hampered upon. Because ultimately, if there is peace and equity in this world, then only there will be all the other things that we are talking about. आप बाकी सब कर लोगे पर वो और ही होता रहेगा या झगड़े होते रहेंगे. So what is the meaning of all that? So peace and justice is very, very important. I think these are frameworks on which any equitable society is built, right? And there need to be strong institutions. Okay, when we talk of institutions, what do we mean? We talk about the parliamentary, the parliament that we have, both at the elected bodies that we have, right? So the parliament, the state assemblies, we have the local corporation, and so you know that the division of how it is done, right? The executive, the judiciary, right, and the yeah. So all three wings of administration need to be equally strong. Their roles have to be divided, and you need to ensure that. So, and the institutions are the ones which ensure that each of those three wings of government are functioning according to the mandate that we have. I think आप लोग हैं, as students, I'm sure you read a lot. We have just been through an election in India. We have seen the kind of issues that have been discussed. We have seen the outcome of the elections. Everybody has a different view. But in the long run, is it good for the country that there is a strong opposition? It is, right? I think you need a strong opposition to ensure that everybody gets carried along. But at the end of the day, if all sections of society do not work together, it's going to be impossible. I know it's easy to discuss this here, and I do wish all sections of our political establishment would also feel the same, that they need to work together. But I think as citizens, we have given the message. Right? You may follow any politics, that doesn't matter. The issue is that a strong opposition, a good, strong government is important for this country, so that everybody, every section of society is taken care of. And if you extend this argument not just to from within India, if you go overseas, you know what has just happened in the UK. I think you have seen that for 14 years there was a conservative government, and now the Labour government has come with a huge majority. If you look at France, right, just the elections, the results are just coming out now, and they have a different form of electoral politics, where they have a two-tier system, and where the far right was supposed to be, was looking at getting into power. We've now got the extreme left because of some understanding. So what I'm trying to say is that political movements will come and go, right? But whenever there is, sorry? Iran, yeah, Iran is a classic example where a reformer has now become, is going to become the president. So these are classic examples, and I think what we need to understand is that there are political cycles, right? And they will have come and go. And the only thing which will ensure continuity are strong institutions. So I think that is, as students, you need to be very careful about that. And partnerships for the goals. All these goals can only happen if there are partnerships, right? And how do you take those partnerships together and forward, right? So academia, educational institutions, industry, government, NGOs, everybody needs to come together to understand how they can create an impact to create a sustainable. I think that's the reason for putting up this slide was basically that it gives you an idea that what your roles and responsibilities can be, right? I'm sure all of you can derive some message from each of these goals. Maybe if you want, you can say that these are the 5 things that I need to do on a daily basis in my personal life to create an impact on either of these. Form partnerships, which is what I was discussing with Mr. Sharma earlier, that you need to look at creating partnerships with, let's say, if you decide, I mean, and I personally think, I'm sure the university, the faculty has other ideas, but I personally think the way you have projects in industries, you should have projects in the social sector. I think it's important that you, and I would, through Parvez's medium, I would really advise that there should be projects identified in the social sector because they need managerial inputs. There are lots of NGOs working in different areas, all these areas, but they are driven by people with passion. But there needs to be organization, there needs to be management behind that to make them sustainable. And if bright young students like you get involved, I'm sure you will get real-time learning, where you are actually working with NGOs on the ground and creating immediate impact. So there is a learning for you, and there is some outcome that the NGOs also get. So I would in fact recommend very strongly as part of point number 17, partnerships for the growth. I think it's important to do that and to take that forward.
And I think SP Jain and Naresh are already doing that.
Yeah, I already mentioned SP Jain, like I said, has been doing it. I graduated from SP Jain in 1994. So which is, I don't know, about 30 years ago now. Okay, so they have been doing it since then. Right, and Navrashna, I know, is as well doing a lot of this. They are involved in the Chota Udaipur belt in a strong way, and also doing a lot of work in Baroda. And I think as a faculty, you can identify if there are certain focus areas that you need to look at. If it's village adoption, or whatever it might be that all of you decide. And if you use this as a platform, decide with these are the 3 or 4 SDGs that you want to create an impact on. Identify those, identify projects. I know that I was involved in Baroda Citizens Council, and we get students from FMS-MSU, from SP Jain every year. They come for 3 months, they do projects. We will used to give them specific areas to look at. They will do that and then go creating websites, creating social media presence, fundraising, identifying programs, helping with creating an organization structure to be able to manage specific programs. So there are so many things that can happen, and I think it will be great learning for the students as well. Any questions? We can maybe just, I've been talking too much. If somebody has any questions, we can discuss.
Class, keep on asking questions. It's not a one-way communication. Ask questions whenever you feel like. Just ask. In fact, one question you should ask is, how can I as a student, give me very specific things of how can I contribute to this. Ask him that question. Pucho.
Has anybody, okay, now let me ask a different question, okay. We have organizations in Baroda, जैसे all of you go for Garba? Yes. Yeah. So, you know that but the biggest Garba in Baroda is organized by United Way, right? And United Way ka, I think the fees that they charge, I think for girls it's 1,000 rupees or 800 rupees, they charge a deposit. And for boys it's 4,000. 5,000.
Equality.
There's a lot of interest in that 5,000. मैं उनको वो दुखती रंग का थोड़ा सा उनको दिखा समझा रहा हूँ कि भाई सर ये जो आपका 1,000 रुपया और 5,000 रुपया है, आपको पता है यूनाइटेड वे क्या है? यूनाइटेड वे का काम क्या है? गरबा ऑर्गेनाइज करना है, right? So United Way is and United Way of Baroda probably is the biggest fundraiser in the country, right? All the funds that they collect from the Garba, which is what all of you are contributing to, and the sponsorship they get, and is all going towards NGOs working in different causes. वो जो हमने 17 किए थे ना, so in and around Baroda, they support education initiatives, skilling initiatives, village adoption initiatives. Now all of you will have the time to pay money and do the Garba. Right, but how many of you are willing to say कि मेरे को एक project से वहाँ involve होना है? Can any of you think of doing that 1 hour a week or 4 hours a month? Think are those things that you can do? Right? Do you think you can spare that time? Then I can put 5 NGOs on the table here today. Right? I can tell you कि okay आपको अगर if you are interested in education, if you are interested in nature conservation and heritage, if you are interested in skilling for the underprivileged, ये 3-4 हम verticals define करें. Are any of you willing? And we can make groups of 3 or 4, and you can decide that 4 hours a month, 4 hours a month. Right? Are any of you? So that is where I am coming from. When he says, "What can I do?" That commitment is not just by asking the question. That's the asking the question is the easiest part. ठीक है ना? अगर आप लोग में से कोई बोलो कि हम 4 जन की टीम है, हम महीने में या हफ्ते में 2 घंटा या महीने में 4 घंटा, we are ready to give. Right? There are number of projects which can be put on the table. Right? And when I brought that example of United Way was to express that the money that is collected from that initiative is actually going to support the impact is on 1 lakh people, right, who are underprivileged, whether it's in terms of education, whether it's in terms of healthcare, whether it's in terms of, so there are different ways of doing it. So there are lots of these initiatives within Baroda which raise funds. So some NGOs are good at raising funds. The Garba is one medium because, like I said, the amount of enthusiasm I saw when I asked about Navratri, none of the other questions had that kind of enthusiasm, right? So the model that they have followed is great in my view, right? Because that's the Garba has become it has become the identity of Baroda. The United, and it's not now just the United Way of Baroda. There are other Garbas also in the city which are probably equally good and as big, and which is good. There should be 4 or 5 Garbas which are generating that kind of money. ठीक है? So आप दे रहे हो पैसा, दुखता भी होएगा, but ये सोचो कि आप वो अच्छे कॉज के लिए दे रहे हो, ठीक है? और वो पैसा देना, चेक फाड़ना is the easiest part. The real test is when you say that I can spend 4 hours to do something to contribute. That is the responsibility. When I talk of social student responsibility, the responsibility is not the money part. Money is also important, right? A lot of NGOs want to raise funds and all that. But it's also important that as students, and which is why I advocate that to make it, to sensitize students and to create that sense of empathy and ownership, I think it should become a part of your curriculum. right? Where you are given projects, you are graded on that. So you also know at the end of the year that the time that you are giving is also giving you some contributing to your GPA. होता है भी कैसे होता है? Are you graded on GPA? Right. So if it helps you in your GPA, would that be a good thing? Right. So if you institutionalize it, I think if you look at institutionalizing student social responsibility, I think there will be it's a good give and take model. I think a lot of the students will get that extra motivation, and the faculty gets brownie points, and the NGOs get input. So I think.
And also, Samir, I think MNCs give preference to those students.
I'm coming to that. वो सब इसमें आएगा कि what all where it's going to take you. So we discussed about environment, waste management, energy conservation, green projects. यही तीन में आपको अगर आज अभी NGO चाहिए तो I'm involved with one in each. I can give you projects. Okay. So what I'm saying is there is ample opportunity, but as an academic institution, you should institutionalize this whole concept so that one is there is a structure to everything, and at the end of the day, the students also get this additional. I'm sure there are a few of you who will be doing things on their own, but I think if you introduce it at an institutional level, it will really help and support the. I think somebody spoke about planting trees, biking and walking. I think थोड़ा बड़ोड़ा में challenging होता है. I cycle, right? But I do it only in the winter months. So after October to March. If I have to go somewhere in the evening, I will take my cycle. Right? And I'm not doing it from any perspective of saving fuel. I'm doing it basically from a health perspective. But that's the reason. But so there are different ways to do different things. And yeah. Social equity projects, right? We discussed earlier making sure that everybody feels a part of society. I think exclusion is not good, inclusion is good. I think we need to have diverse students from diverse backgrounds. We need to ensure that people from less privileged backgrounds or without access to the means and resources that all of us have, it's important to ensure that they are part, they're included in the conversation. Volunteer work we already discussed. And it's like even Excel skills can help. I think if you get out into the NGO sector, when you're on the ground, you will find people who are working there from passion, but they don't have access to computers. Forget computers, they will, even if they have a computer, I know that the government has this program where they create this computer labs in village schools. So about 6 or 7 years ago, we were involved with a village in beyond 4. And so the school was up to class 8, and they had computers, the government had sanctioned computers, and the computers were all there, neatly packed in a room. Box करके रखा हुआ है because there is nobody to do the cabling, there was nobody to provide internet, they did not know how to use it. So we set up a program so that you got it working, you got people to come and train. That's something all of you can do. Right? It's simple things, ना? किसी को computer सिखाना है, Word, Excel सिखाना है. It's not difficult. Right? All of you, we think अभी तो आज हमारे लिए तो it's second nature. कि ये तो हमको तो but there are lots of other people who don't have. So the facilities are there, but how do you use those facilities? I think that's somewhere where all of you can get involved. TEDx, does MSU do any TEDx talks? Because I know that some of the other education institutions are doing.
I think that's
Yeah, I think so. That's something that, and as students, you can actually take that initiative and do. I think it will be a great learning. In fact, the learning that you get from organizing panels, I mean, the session that you have this week, organizing things, coordinating with the speakers, scheduling things. That's a great learning for all of you. I did my MBA from SPJ. Okay, we know today it's ranked in some rankings. It's ranked number 1, even above IIM, and it's done because solely on the basis of a very strong alumni network that they have, which is what I think was being discussed earlier. When I joined SPJ, it was part of, it was offering the Mumbai University MMS program. Okay, and ours was the first batch. When they broke away, I'm not sure if most of you probably not even born at that time. But then SPJ is part of the Bhavan's institution, and they broke away from the Bombay University and set up their own management program with IIM Ahmedabad. There was one full-time course coordinator. There was one full-time faculty, and they made that resource constraint right into a marketing this thing. They said students will organize. So we had a list of professors from Ahmedabad who would take different subjects, and then they told us, you go out into the industry and get professionals, whomsoever you want. So the 2 years, the amount that we learned in trying to schedule our own, that itself was the learning. Right? The learning was more outside the classroom than inside the classroom. So remember that. And in that sense, residential programs are a lot, I would say the learning that you get in residential programs is a lot more, because then you're actually involved almost 24/7 in the whole running of the institute. Yeah, so this is what we basically spoke about, engaging more with the community, right? Teaming up with NGOs, collaborating on special projects. Now this is, I'm sorry I keep going back to SPGN because I know that a lot of my thought process comes from there, mentoring underprivileged students. So they have their old student, the alumni has given some money where they support education initiatives of students. But they've taken it to the next level. That you're not just supporting the students by giving the fees or whatever they need, you're mentoring. So every month, some students will go back to the university on a weekend. Then there will be a group of these underprivileged children who will be called. They will be given mentoring in terms of where their problems lie, what opportunities they need to follow. So the different category of students. So that's again something that a lot of you can easily get involved. I think you do not understand the value of the background that all of you have, and if you talk to somebody who's struggling to pay the fees, interacting with some bright minds like you, the impact it has on them is life-changing. And don't underestimate the power of your interaction, because it can be really, really strong. Learning from professionals, and of course, social media is the name of the game today, right? You can take up social campaigns even sitting from home. So volunteer for an NGO and manage their Insta page or whatever that might be. So a lot of interesting things that can be done. But like I said, I think at the end of the day, there needs to be some institutionalization of the initiative and how that will support your academic and career growth. Yeah. Yeah, so how, I think what, just kind of summing up to how this aids in your personal and professional development. I think I ran through some of these points as we were talking. Skill development, I think obviously it boosts your leadership skills, your team building skills, your team communication, your organization skills, the networking opportunities that you will get, because the number of people that you start interacting with, because NGOs are supported by corporates, you will engage with different corporate leaders. I know that all the big companies in and around Baroda are supporting some program or the other. So आपको फिर कल उठ के MG मोटर को बुलाना है recruitment के लिए, then you know it's just a phone call away, right? The access that you get is different when you start getting involved with these kind of activities. Career advancement, right? How it will impact your resume, look at that. Right? Think of what you say when you say that I did a project with so-and-so NGO on skill development or whatever it is. It just, your resume just stands out from the rest for somebody who's not done it. When I look at people I want to recruit, today with AI and with whatever tools you have, all resumes are identical. How do you differentiate one from the other? It's projects like these. Right? Everybody is going to say, I am an MBA from FMS Baroda with a GPA of XYZ, with 1-2 years work experience here or there. But how many of them can say that I have done a project with United Way or village skilling or some project or the other? I think it's important to understand that, and I think the faculty can play a big role in institutionalizing the same. Yeah, so what I think at the end it says is, it's not just about doing good, it's obviously becoming the best version of yourself. Yeah, and it's I think Parvez is going to talk about interviews, right? Yeah, it's a great conversation starter for interviews. So what I'm saying is that this is how, when you take up, it's not just a question of taking up roles that will give you some this thing, but it's also the fact that you are constantly differentiating yourself from the ground. And I think that's, as MBA students, you've already taken that first level of this thing by enrolling into an MBA program. So already you know that first filter has happened. Now, next filter is going to be, what is it that you've done in those 2 years that will make you stand out from the rest? And these are, I've just shown you one avenue which you can have. Obviously, I think your projects, whether you do for corporates, whether you do for NGOs, these are the kind of things which will really stand out for you. Yeah, so I think that's more or less about what I wanted to talk. Now I'm open if somebody has any questions or you want to have any discussions. What is that? I'm going to ask all of you one question at the end, so you have to be prepared. So, yeah, please.
So, like you said, if someone is really want to join such kind of NGOs and want to do such kind of projects, then what are the different channels they can use? Like once you said that you can bring today the NGOs.
I can engage with the lean, and I can list down, we can together decide that these are the 2, 3, 4 areas in which you want to do it. The faculty should also, I mean the institute should also have that. And we can bring 4 NGOs on the table. That's not a problem. So I think as students you should decide with the faculty which are the areas that you would like to work in, if it's rural development, skilling, environment, whatever it might be. And you can decide out of, if as a group of 100, you may then zero down on 4 or 5. I don't recommend too many. And ideally it should be in groups, not one individual. I think if it's a group of 4 or 5, I think that really helps. So, but I am happy to support that.
Thank you.
Please.
Sir, how can we contribute to farmers? Like, as a social responsibility, what should we ideally do?
It's a question I can ask you.
Okay.
Right, as a student, right? Can you do a survey? See, there are different ways of doing it. I can put you in touch with NGOs which are working in the rural areas. Right? Now, if you want any farmer focused, I would say, आप 4-5 लोगों का group बनाओ, go out into the area, do a survey, find out what they need, and we can get a intervention done. Right? So, as students now, you have to stop thinking somebody else is going to give you answers. Right? It's very important that the answers will come from you. So you can state a problem, but ultimately the solution. I always like to say in my organization, are you a part of the problem or are you a part of the solution? Right? So you have stated a good, farmers have a lot of issues that they would, I'm sure, like to get addressed. I personally cannot take up their claims. But the best way I would say is, it could be, if there is a team of 4 or 5, go out, do a survey over 2 or 3 weekends. I think through the program there is an opportunity to reach out to farmers, do a survey and find out what intervention is necessary, and then that can be taken up.
So I think instead of industrial tools, they should be taken to the villages.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just CSR, but you have a lot of opportunities like rural marketing, rural finance. what funding they need, reaching out to the bank, reaching out to the government policies, so that they can have better access to finance. So these are the new areas we can capture, of course.
Unilever used to, I'm talking of many years ago, Unilever used to be one of the primary, those blue chip companies that as MBA students you want to, Unilever hota tha, Asian Paints hota tha. And their management training program, first year was in the villages. And if you know Unilever, the rural network they have is what has kept them afloat all these years. So it's very important because even today, 70% of India's population is in the rural area. So if you don't understand the dynamics, if you don't really get a feeling of that, it's so yes, I think that's a great idea.
So, yep. So during COVID, I was volunteering in an NGO in which we did a lot of work for the labor force and the underprivileged people. But after some time, we come to know that we need to do the skills enhancement and education. So we started educating children. At the beginning, the response was very great, but as the time passes by, we see a lot of children were not coming, their parents were not sending them. So eventually that program we have to discontinue. So what are your views? What should we do?
That's a very valid point, and you will only realize these issues once you get involved. It's very easy for us to say, give education support, but have we understood what the practical issues on the ground are? Right now, you will have most of the kids which are supported for education, their parents will be working as rickshaw drivers, mothers will be working as domestic help, or koi lari chalata hoga. What? And I've been part of NGOs where we support more than 1,500 students, and what we find is the dropout rate is almost 20%. Right? That from year to year, children drop out. Why? See, once you get into the field, you will understand why. The parents need a third income, right? So they will get the children to get employed somewhere. The parents will, they tend to have bigger families, right? So what will happen is that there will be a small child which needs taking care of. So if there is a elder brother or a sister, he will be asked to take care of the child. So like that, there will be multiple reasons of why children don't complete and finish. So which is why I think what you have done is, I hit the right point. So also it's important that you need to get involved with organizations which have the bandwidth to reach out to these families, find out what their problems are, and give solutions so that the children can come back and join their schools or whatever that is. So I was part of, I was chairperson at Board of Citizens Council, and that's what we have also found. So, but then there is a group of, there is a staff which manages there are field visits, there are visits to the children's home where they interview the parents. So we find out the reasons. So out of that 20%, can we reduce that to 50%? So those are things that you have to look at. So those are the kind of learnings that you will get when you attach yourselves to. So more, I understand what you have tried to do, but I think it's important that you get attached to institutions, because when you get attached to institutions who have experience in that field, then the learning is different. Yeah, so so from morning, what are the 3 lectures or 4 lectures which have happened today? कौन बताएगा, किसी को याद है कि भूल गए?
Self management.
इसको याद है चलिए.
The first was exercise session, wherein we indulged into a small exercises and all. Then we had a session on self-management based on the lessons of Ramayana and Bhagavad Gita. And then we had a session with Sanjeev sir too, based on the what functions should we choose from different specialization, HR, finance, marketing and operations. And right now we have in this session.
So many more sessions do you have after that?
3 more.
3 more. Okay. And How many days is this?
7 days.
7 days. Good. So I think the learning.
7 days. आज और Sunday को है. हाँ 8 days. नहीं. Sorry.
No worries, you are excused.
मुझे वो काउंटिंग करना पड़ता है कॉस्ट टू द ट्रेनिंग, इसके लिए आज मुझे पता है ना, रिसोर्स पर्सन there will be 35 resource persons in these areas.
No, I think this, in my view, this kind of interaction where you're meeting with different kinds of people from industry is probably the best learning you will get. I know it seems that the days can get long and tiring, थोड़ा persevere कर लेना, but I think this is a great learning and I wish all of you all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Next time you go for Garba, remember what you said.
नींद नहीं आ रही है ना? आ रही है।
उड़ा दिया समीर ने सबकी नींद उड़ा दी और जगह भी दिया ना इन्होंने।
अभी आप देखो आगे कैसे लेक्चर आ रहे हैं, जो यहाँ बैठ के इतना वहाँ तक सुनाई दे रहा है, वहाँ खड़े होंगे तो क्या होगा?
नहीं पर इन्होंने अंदर की आग भी जगा दी ना।
Yes, sir.
That's the most important thing.
So yes, I would like to thank Samir sir for taking time for us for such an insightful session. I hope the students will take actions from this session. And now I would like to invite MSF President Mitali Patel for a vote of thanks.
On behalf of Faculty of Management Studies, I would like to extend my gratitude towards Dr. Vijay Kumar Srivastava sir, our Vice Chancellor, and Dean ma'am, Dr. Sunita Sharma ma'am, for giving us the opportunity for conducting this event. I would extend my thanks to Mr. Samir Khera sir for giving Khera sir for giving such an insightful knowledge on our social responsibility towards the society and our next generation. I would like to thank my management students forum team for conducting this event and executing it successfully. Thank you every student who is present here, and thanks to everyone.
So now I will invite our President Dr. Sunita Sharma for giving
President.